is going on, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Revived, episode number 21. I am your host, as always, Shane Craig, and joining me is the lovely Jessi Craig. If you don't know, Podcast Revived is where we share a love of tech, gaming, etc. with all you people. We record every week, and we post on YouTube as well as all major podcast services. Be sure to leave a like or rating wherever you happen to be watching or listening, because that really does help us out quite a bit. This is our day after Thanksgiving episode, which you'll be hearing this and watching this the day after Thanksgiving, of course, on Sunday. But this is the Saturday after, so how was
Black Saturday?
Maybe it's Black Friday, and then is it just Black Saturday? Is it just all black from here on out? So how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was okay, but I did have to sleep because I had to go in 1 a.m. Friday and work until 10 a.m. to help people buy things.
Yeah,
so
to help people buy things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you went a very long time without sleep, because we had our very brief Thanksgiving with the family, and then we came back home and then hung out for a while, and then you went to work at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I went to bed, and you came back at about 10, and then we went to hang out with family again, and you didn't really sleep until that night.
Yeah.
So you're up
that's fun.
You're up for about 2 days, serving the what would you call it, the corporate, not necessarily, what would you call people buying things? Capitalism.
I mean, that's what it is.
The capitalist needs.
Gotta help them get their stuff on this particular morning when it's just very slightly less expensive than normal.
Sure. Well, hopefully everybody that does celebrate Thanksgiving had a good Thanksgiving, and hope everybody stayed safe and didn't do anything particularly stupid, like, gathering. Like, normally our Thanksgiving would have been like 45 people in one room together, but, we did not do that. So hopefully everybody followed suit and kept their distances and tried to keep their friends and family nice and safe. So let's talk about something here first off that kind of has bummed me out over the last few days. I'm a little disappointed. For those that may or may not know, I have a Surface Pro 7 that is a Core i3 model, the i3 with 4 gigs of RAM, the low-end spec, and then I also have another Surface Pro 7 that is a Core i5. And the point was that, Jessi, you were going to use the i3, I was going to use the i5. You wound up not really using the i3 like at all.
Yeah, I don't really end up using things. I'm not a tech nerd such as yourself.
I think that you wind up just being cool with your phone. Like, you don't really seem to have a need for like a full-blown laptop or anything. You use your computer to game on and stuff, but
yeah,
you don't really you don't need that intermediary where it's like, I've got my phone and I've got my desktop, and you're like, I don't need a middle ground between those two. So, fair enough. And it's actually worked out okay, because the i5 model, which was my daily for a while, I noticed the other day that there's a strip right down the front of the screen, kind of where the webcam is, but off to the left just slightly from top to bottom, where the touch screen just isn't working at all. Just totally stopped working. And so I was like, man, what's going on there? Like, if you go into Paint and you're just drawing lines with your finger, it just like stops and starts and stops and starts. It leaves that gap right in the middle. If you use the stylus, it's a little bit closer, the Surface Pen, but it still does not properly work. So unfortunately, 2020 will also be the year that I remember that 2 of my Surface devices broke, kind of without me doing anything to them. I tried everything. I worked on it for like a whole day, tried all kinds of different solutions, and
you were on it for a while too, like pushing off sleep to try and get the thing to work. So
yeah, I tried everything, and I finally, I ran a calibration tool that Sony makes that people said fixed it. That didn't fix it. I tried, I wound up reinstalling Windows. I totally wiped it and reinstalled Windows, and lo and behold, still there when I rebooted. So, and if you boot into UEFI, which is like their version of like a BIOS, the touchscreen doesn't work at all in that, which indicates that it's probably a hardware failure. So my
which is depressing.
yeah, so I've got a Surface tablet with a busted touchscreen, type cover, and pin. You're looking at well over $1,000 worth of hardware there, and it lasts not even a year. So that's pretty cool that it that my Surface Pro 7 is dead. So now I'm using the i3 because I actually do use the touchscreen. Like when I'm making thumbnails and stuff, like I use the touchscreen. So I can't use it. So it's one of those things that's Microsoft makes these really beautiful, like well-crafted products, but like, man, it seems like they don't seem to hold up all that well.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate and not really good to have for your reputation.
No, and when I was Googling, there were lots of people that were having the same sorts of issues with older devices, and they were able to fix it with this calibration tool. Some of them were, some of them weren't. There's a lot of weird things. Like there's a calibration tool that's built into Windows that you can load up, and when you hit, there's like a configuration thing, and it just doesn't even open. And other people online were saying the same thing. Like people at Microsoft were suggesting they use this calibration tool, and everyone's like, it doesn't do anything. It literally the screen flashes, and then there's nothing there. The tool doesn't even exist apparently. Then there's like a Surface diagnostic program that you run through, and people are like, oh, try that. When you run through it, it basically is like, try touching the screen in a bunch of places, and it's like, did that work right? And you're like, no. And it's like, well, all right. Like it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do a damn.
It's just like, oh, bummer.
Dang,
Wish
bro.
I could help you with that problem, but I can't.
Our stuff's really expensive too. That's disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Like as much as I love the Surface devices, like I love the way that they feel and they look. Man, if somebody came to me and they were like, hey, I've got, $1,000 to spend, and I need a thin and light laptop or a tablet. I need Windows 10. I need stylus support, and I need, decent battery life, et cetera, et cetera. I like my Surface devices, but like, I'm not recommending one.
Yeah.
Like that. There's so many devices I would recommend over that would serve. It's not gonna like the whole shtick about the Surface has more to do with the form factor than anything. It's all these little things, right? It's like, oh, it's got the built-in kickstand. It's made of magnesium. It's got the pin attaches to the side and charges. The charging port's magnetic. It's got USB-C now. Like, there's all these cool little touches to it. But like, there's so many devices that will outspec it, outperform it, and maybe not look as cool, but they're going to be more reliable. And like, isn't that more important? Like, ultimately, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend one at all. And it's not even like,
not after having those issues too,
Yeah, I mean, my i3 is still chugging along. And what's really weird too about that i5, and I never really resolved this either, was that the i3 uses Intel's UHD graphics, and the i5 I had used Intel's Iris graphics, and Iris was like, oh, Iris is supposed to be like much better. Part of the reason I got the i5 was that I made videos about gaming on the i3 because I was like, it's the 4 gigs of RAM, it's i3, everybody tells you it's too slow to do anything, blah, da, 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 da. Well, it's not true. You actually can, I played Fortnite on it. I played Apex on really low settings on it. It's serviceable. And on day-to-day stuff, you can't tell a difference at all. Like web browsing, using, if most of what you do is in a web browser, you're going to be fine. So I got the i5 because I wanted to say, like, well, let's make videos about gaming on the i5 model, because it should be a pretty big jump in performance. And it wasn't for me. Like, and I saw other people's videos where they were getting way better performance than I was, and I have no idea why. Like, I tried all kinds of different graphics drivers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I could never get, like, my performance was dog shit. Like, my i3 outperformed my i5 in terms of gaming. Like, Fortnite would, like, barely play. It would crash. Like, something was wrong with that i5 from the get-go, and now the touchscreen has failed too. So, like, I don't even know what to even say about that model. I'm sure other people's are fine, but mine was not great from pretty much the time I got it until now. So disappointing, strange, and of course everybody knows I had to send back my Surface Duo for warranty. I guess I'm just gonna hold on to onto that i5 Surface. Maybe one day I'll buy an iFixit kit and rip the screen off and try and replace the panel, the digitizer or something, and maybe maybe that'll be a video down the line or something. Who knows?
It's the worst that'll happen.
Yeah, I'm already not gonna use it.
The broken thing doesn't work anymore.
Right. I broke my broken tablet. Oh God. So in terms of some gaming news, some things that we've been doing here lately, I guess it's not really news unless you consider our goings on to be news. I mean, there's not really anything going on right now, if I'm being honest with you. Like, there's just not. It's like it was Black Friday deals, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, this is on sale, and you can try this. And, like, that's not news. That's not interesting to me. And there's really not anything going on in terms of gaming stuff. So, we're kind of going to mull our way through this podcast. But you've been playing a game that I haven't tried yet that looks interesting. I think it's pronounced Labyrinthine. I think that's unless they're pronouncing it strangely or differently than the word, as far as I'm aware. But I
don't know.
What is the concept of Labyrinthine? Which there is 2 gameplay videos out now on the gaming channel if you want to see it. Give us an overview of what Labyrinthine seems to be about, because I'm not totally clear on it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a horror game. Well, it's not kind of like, it is a horror game. It does give me some of the Phasmophobia vibes, just as far as like the way that it looks and the fact that you can co-op this game, which I have been co-oping it with Daniel, who's Youngbred 401, or is he just Youngbred? He's Youngbred on YouTube.
401.
There's a 401 there.
Yeah.
So yes, that is who he is on YouTube. We've been playing with him, or I've been playing with him, because I don't do well with horror games by myself. But it looks like you are a redneck and you're in some redneck area.
I noticed in the videos that I was helping kind of clean up the editing on, like there was a lot of like herka-derka kind of like talking people. Well, you're up in a maze now. And I was like,
you're going
weird.
the right way. You're doing good. Yeah, that kind of thing, which I guess to everybody else in the world, that is terrifying. But that's just like everyday life for us here.
It's just normal.
In the South. Anyways, that's not the point of the game, but you're in a maze, a really big maze with like pine trees. And I think the premise is like you're going in to search for people who've gone missing in this haunted maze. And you get into the maze and like right in the middle, maybe past where like the entertainment part ends, because like a haunted maze is not going to be like super intense for most people. It's just going to be like an attraction during Halloween, But you get past this one side of the maze where the attraction part stops for most people, and it's still going, and there's this big, like almost ritualistic looking puzzle, and you're seeing someone like running through the maze, and there's this weird guy who looks deformed who wants to come after you if you get too close to him. So you have to kind of like dodge him and solve these puzzles to get further into the maze to try and find what's going on, find the missing people, figure out why someone decided to put this horrible thing inside of a maze. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far because we got stuck on this puzzle. I think the game is in early access. It's an early access game.
I believe that's right.
Well, this puzzle, oh my God, I've spent so much time on it. The first time Daniel solved it just what seemed to be by accident. Like, you're supposed to step on these tiles to light them all up. There's like 9 of them in a square. And the little hints that they have next to the puzzle, which are handwritten notes by whoever went in before you to try and find the missing people, was like, oh, I think you have to step on the adjacent, or step on this tile and it'll light up the adjacent tiles, and I should try and light them all up. Okay, this puzzle was not thought out well enough. I don't know who on their team thought that it was like going to be simple enough for people to figure it out. It's not. And because it's an early access game and like no one's played it yet, there are no guides for it.
Nobody's talking about.
I did
Like,
try and search the internet for this thing because I want to continue on the game, but the puzzle is just like nonsense, like absolute nonsense.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, you have to complete these puzzles to progress through the game, and that one was just half baked. It was not good. So that was my only complaint, is that was horrible.
It
But the rest of the
looks
game is fun.
it looks very atmospheric. Like
It is.
it's got a. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me that like just a handful of years ago, when a game was in early access, that meant, generally speaking, that it was going to be like not super pretty to look at. You know, like it was going to be rough. Like if you look back at like PUBG when it was in early access, it looked terrible,
Yeah.
absolutely ugly. And now like the way that some of these game engines have progressed, so these small teams can create you know pretty pretty exceptional looking games
Yeah.
on a pretty small budget, which is really impressive. What do you? Well, I mean, you've seen it in in real time, not being recorded or not watching on YouTube. What do you think of the visuals? Is it as pretty as what it looks? What I can tell as far as it looks like.
I do think it's pretty. I think that it helps that it's a dark game, so most of the like it's happening at night, so you don't have to have like crazy lighting effects, but the trees are definitely, they don't look like beautiful, but I mean for an early access game, I think it looks pretty good. We haven't had any glitches that I've seen yet. Um, the character models look okay. I mean, their walking motions are fine. It's not like, the weird things we were seeing on Phasmophobia, where when a character, like when you look down, like your whole character is just like I
The
remember one of the
animations are
videos
really weird.
you posted, one of the videos where someone like set, I think it was me. I think I set like the ghostwriting book like on the table next to the screen in the van, and you were looking at me and I was looking at the book, and I mean straight up my character's like doing that, like literally like face on the book. I mean it's not like
Yeah.
that, it's a lot better than that, but it is kind of amazing. One thing I noticed too, like in this game and in Phasmophobia, and I don't know anything about game development, but it looks like there are a lot of shared assets, like objects and stuff, that are also in House Flipper. Like a lot of the houses and the tables and the
That's
furniture
interesting.
straight up came, like they're in the same game as House Flipper. And that's why I was like, oh, this is just House Flipper with ghosts, because
So
it is.
Phasmophobia is running on Unity. So let's look at Labyrinthine game engine. See if I can see what engine it's running on. Because if they're all running on Unity, then that could literally be what it is. It could be that maybe Unity has a selection of of assets that can
Yeah.
be used. Let's see here. Developing maze games using Unity. I'm not 100%, but it looks like it may be Unity as well.
Now look at House Flipper.
Stop. It keeps correcting me to Labyrinth. I'm like, no, I mean
Yeah.
Labyrinthine. I do in fact mean. I do in fact. Yeah. Okay. So it is Unity as well. So I'd be really. House Flipper game engine is running Unity. So there's your answer.
All
They're
right.
all running Unity. Unity has really come a long way. Like when Unity first came out, it was mostly targeting like really small games and like mobile games, and like Unity's really like it's pretty solid now. People are making some really good looking games with that engine.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because, like, why would you, unless you just wanted your game to have, your own flavor, like, why would you want to have to handcraft each of these items, if you can just pick it out, like the table and the chairs,
Well,
like,
and
all the furniture is the same in House Flipper and Phasmophobia, but it
that's
doesn't
so
need to be
funny.
anything different.
Well, and what's really interesting too about that is that you look at these three games that are indie games, and several a couple of them have done pretty well. Phasmophobia, I think, had its moment in the sun, and if Unity doesn't exist, Unity being an engine that's easy to craft games in, it simplifies a lot of processes, and I believe it's free. for people to use. If I'm not I may be wrong about that. I may be totally wrong about that. But if bare minimum, it's inexpensive. It's, you know, if you said you use an Unreal Engine or something like that, people are choosing Unity for a reason. It's helping proliferate people's ideas for games into reality for us to be able to then enjoy. So Unity has become the engine of choice for these low budget indie games, and without Unity, maybe these games don't get made. You know, maybe they look at Unreal Engine and it's, you know, there's reasons why they won't be able to get it done with Unreal Engine. So without Unity, you know, these games probably don't exist, which is pretty cool.
I really like it. I mean, you don't need something fancy with that game, and as long as you can get your idea out there, that's all it takes is for someone to play the game, have a good time, and it blows up, and then you can be on to bigger and better things if you want to be. But you know, you've made your game. Like Phasmophobia, I intend to play that game more. Like, I love that game still.
Yeah.
And I know that there's more to come.
Right.
And that's what I'm excited for. Honestly, if we're just talking about early access games, I've had a lot of fun with early access games. A lot of my favorite games are early access. My Time at Portia was one, Graveyard Keeper, obviously Phasmophobia, Labyrinthine, and there have been a few that I've played that I really like, and you get to see the game progress and have more added to it and see, you know, how far it's come. I think I actually may have played House Flipper too when it was, I don't know if it was early access or if it was like in testing.
You've played it for a while, so I would imagine you probably did.
Yeah, it definitely changed a lot. Like, a lot of things changed in that game by the time I was like well into it. So
let's kind of change gears and talk about everybody in the whole world, their favorite company, of course, Comcast. So some news stories broke the other day about a move that Comcast is making that has, you know, I think rightfully so, angered a lot of people.
That's all they do is anger people.
Piss off a lot of people. So I'm going to be reading from, gosh, how would you even say this? It's a website, Jacob in Mag, Jacob and then IN and then MAG. Jacob and Mag. Okay. Sure. Because they've got a pretty good article written up about this. So we're going to read the first paragraph here. And this should sufficiently anger people. It says, quote, with millions of Americans stuck at home to protect themselves from a deadly pandemic during the holiday season, the internet is one of the only conduits connecting them to friends, family, and the outside world. Now, Comcast, one of the monopoly corporations that controls the conduit, is extending its fees on bandwidth usage to all 39 states where it operates, even as the company has received hundreds of millions of dollars of public subsidies and new tax breaks.
Wow.
So basically, in some states, Comcast was not doing overage fees, or which I guess I should say they weren't doing data caps. So they would say, you know, you're paying for this and you just use data and it's fine. Well, now they are going to now start giving caps in every state within overage fees on top of it. So let's see here. So basically, you know, you can be charged up to $100 extra a month if you exceed the cap that you're on. So, you know, depending on what plan you're on, let's say, you know, you've got, you know, 100 gigabytes, you know, you go over that and then it's something crazy like $30 for each, like something like for like each 10 more or something like that. Let me get the specifics on that. But what do you think about, I guess there's a couple of things to unpack there that, like, you know, there's the problem of, you know, it's not like Comcast is hurting for money. You know, they can sit there and say like, oh, we have to charge these overages because people are using more data. Okay, well,
they have to take advantage of.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do. Take advantage, not have to make money there. They have to take advantage of people.
Comcast and its subsidiaries have received nearly $1 billion in state and local subsidies, in addition to the $861 million in federal tax subsidies that they got in the first year of the Trump tax cuts. Okay, so, you know, Comcast and their subsidiaries, Comcast is a massive company. I mean, we're talking NBC and everything rolled up in this too. they make a absolute shitload of money. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between making money and making profit. They make a shitload of profit. They are
Yeah.
not hurting for money.
And
They're
then they get
doing,
all of that, all the subsidies on top of that too, on top of the profit.
yes. So there's that. So there's the problem of they're making a lot of money and they're trying to make a lot more money. And look, you can say that's the point of capitalism, whatever. Well, part of the thing about capitalism is that things have to be regulated because we've all played a game of Monopoly, and at the end of the game, there's the one asshole at the table that has all the property and all the money, and there's no way you can catch up. Okay, that's capitalism run without regulation. So then the next question is, does Comcast have a monopoly? Which is to say that do they offer a product that for which there is no alternative, that you either buy it from them or you just go without? And I think that unfortunately the reality is that in a lot of areas,
Yeah.
yes, they do. In
Yeah.
Knoxville, there's Xfinity, which is Comcast. Which, by the way, the reason they call it Xfinity is because they know that Comcast has such a bad name that they literally tried to make a sub brand to trick people.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But here, I mean, you pretty much have there's TDS Telecom, which is okay. They don't offer coverage in all over Knoxville, and then there's WOW, and WOW is similar. They don't offer a lot of coverage everywhere. Comcast, for a lot of people in Knoxville, is the only option that they have for high-speed internet.
Yep.
And because of that, they can. There's a quote here from from Public Citizen on Twitter. They said, "This is why monopolies are bad. Comcast can arbitrarily exploit us for profit during a pandemic just because it feels like it. Meanwhile,
Yep.
Comcast collects tons of tax breaks and government subsidies. Comcast should be broken up." So they're saying, the idea of breaking them up, breaking them up into smaller companies that would then compete with each other would restore competition, because right now there is no competition. Without competition, you can just make declarations and people go, "Oh, that sucks," and you go, "Oh well, you got it," because at this point, there's an argument to be made. Is internet, so part of your taxes you get, in a lot of areas, municipal water, sewage, electricity. Some places it's broken out. It's, electricity is part of a utility, whatever. But utilities are run by the government, essentially, right? And internet is still being run by companies for profit. And, there's a question there, should internet be considered a utility in that it's, a necessity? You can't imagine somebody living without water. Are we getting to a point where internet access is on that level?
I think so. And the reason why I say this is because, okay, one thing that most people need to live is money. And in order to get money, you have to have a job. Well, most places to get a job, you have to apply online. Okay. So, like the place where I work, we don't have paper applications. The only way that you can apply is online.
Right.
Um, Also, a lot of places where you have to sign up for programs, you can only sign up online. Like military discounts are starting to be online only right now. And that's a huge problem for older people who don't have internet, or poorer people who don't have internet. And used to, you could go to these places called libraries and use theirs. Well, you can't really do that so well in a pandemic. Also, there are not that many libraries that are like easily accessible to everybody. So you have to hopefully have one in your community and hope that they offer that service. Not every place does. Um, I think that we're getting to a point where it is, especially with children having to do homework online. You know, kids do schooling online, and that was happening before the pandemic.
Yeah.
That was becoming a thing where kids had to have laptops and tablets and stuff to do homework at home and do online computer learning. And it's like, how the hell are they going to do that if they don't have internet? My family, like, I really did not have steady internet until we got together.
Yeah.
Before that, the area that I lived in was kind of rural, and Comcast was um, the only one that we could have there besides this other one that they have for there's another brand, I forgot what it's called around here, but it was really crappy. I mean, Like it would take like 30 minutes to download like one episode of something,
Yeah.
online. Like an episode of something online. It would take 30 minutes and then half the time you'd get 15 seconds in and it'd start buffering. I
Buffer
mean,
again.
our internet was horrible, but we couldn't afford Comcast.
Right.
I mean, where we live, they were like, "Oh, well, we got to run a cable out there,
Yeah.
and then that's going to be this amount of money, and we need like 5 more people on your road to decide that they want to have it
To make it
too, and then
worth
we can
it.
run the cable." And it's like, what are you fucking talking
Yeah.
about? Like, people need internet down
Well,
here.
and even in our area, it's better than some places in the Midwest where loads of people don't have internet access
Oh yeah,
because everybody's much more spread out, and it's for that exact reason they don't. It's not profitable.
yeah,
So if you look at internet access as a utility, which I think that the pandemic has really underlined why that is maybe a good idea. We've all seen through this that like you kind of have to have the internet right now to
yeah,
get by. Well, if you look at things that way as a utility, then you stop doing it for profit and you start doing it because people need it. And then, I'm not necessarily in favor of like, I don't want to say like, let's get rid of Comcast. What I
no,
would say is that what needs to happen is that the government needs to step in terms of people that are undercovered, and there needs to be a government-run internet access protocol that's accessible to everyone, and that is either extremely inexpensive because it's subsidized by taxpayer money,
yeah,
or it's just or it's I mean, God, if it's can it just be free? Can we, I mean, on the
yeah.
rich in the richest country to ever exist, can we handle, we don't need gigabit speed, we just need internet access, like
Let me
just
let,
something.
let me ask you something. What'll happen in our country first? Free healthcare or free internet?
Oh God, I don't know, but I mean,
Which one are they willing to give up for free?
I think
Probably
that
internet.
I think that ultimately what's going to come down to is it's lobbying. Comcast will go in front of courts and say why, make up bullshit reasons why it can't work and why it's wrong to do that. It's the same way that the Medicare, the medical industry, pharmaceutical and insurance companies, which they step up and they say the same things that it won't work here. It works in every other country on planet Earth, but it won't work here though. And it's all about lobbying. It's all about who's got money. Unfortunately.
Comcast has the money because although they're still profiting, they're also getting tax cuts and
Oh
more
yeah.
money to them, which I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Is if they're profiting over a certain percent, they shouldn't be able to
Why
get
are we?
extra money. Why
It's
are we
like,
giving them money when we can give it to the smaller companies like Wow and a couple of the other up and coming companies that
or
really need it?
use that money to start bolstering the infrastructure to start doing it, in an inexpensive way that's government
Yeah.
run. I mean, we talk about how we can't afford these things, but people don't understand that we're giving trillions of dollars every year, to the rich, the very wealthy, and the corporations
Yep.
like Comcast. So
Absolutely, we
it's
are.
like we can afford to do these things. We just can't afford to do these things and give all of our money to rich people. We can't.
Yeah.
We can't do both. We have
Yeah.
to actually. Our government needs to actually take care of the people that need help instead of giving money to the people that don't need help and then letting the people on the bottom of the pyramid who carry all the
Suffer.
weight suffer and
Yep.
be crushed by all these sorts of things. It's super frustrating, and I don't hold a lot of hope that anything will happen. Unfortunately, I don't think President-elect Biden is going to do anything with, the internet situation because I don't think he's got a great track record with, things like that. Obviously, we've killed net neutrality, and I don't know if that's going to get restored. I certainly hope that it would because that's going to, a lot of problems can arise from that too. Problems in this vein, unfortunately. But I guess we'll have to see what happens. I don't know. People need to be vocal and
Yep.
Eventually.
And not support these companies. If you have an alternative that might be a little bit worse, maybe go with the alternative just to
Yep.
be one less person feeding the monster, like
Yeah.
with WoW. Like I haven't noticed I have not noticed any more issues than we had with Comcast. We had outages all the time with Comcast.
Yeah, the service was crap, and then they, they raised our bill without
Yeah,
like
multiple times.
after and I when you sign up for any of these things, you got to read the fine print, and it says the price is $49. After 12 months, it'll be $54, and after 18 months, it'll be $65. And you're like, okay, I get it. Well, I went through that, and we were at the end of our our contract was over. We were just going at that point. I was at my limit. We were with them for over 3 years, and then one day my bill went up again, like significantly. Like it was up to like something stupid, like it was like $120, and all I have is internet. And I was like, what the hell? So I go on my account, and they've bumped me up to a higher tier internet speed, which I didn't want. And I do the speed test, and sure enough, I'm getting faster speeds. And I'm like, I didn't want that at that time. I wasn't a content creator at that time. I didn't need that. So I contact them, and I'm like, I want my old plan back. Like, well, that plan's not there anymore. You can't just upgrade me without my consent and start charging me more for a different service. Like, that's bullshit. I got super mad about it, and I was like, well, then you can cancel my fucking service. And then they're like, well, let's figure out what we can do. I'm like, no, fuck off. If a threat is what it takes for you to do something for me, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So I hung up with them, and I immediately went online and set up an appointment with WOW. They were out in 2 days, set up the internet, and I told Comcast to fuck off, and I will never deal with them again. I would rather deal with anybody else, because that shit is bullshit. We've been with WOW for a few years now, and, I increased my internet speed, and my bill has remained what they said it would be. They haven't lied to me. It stayed where it was. And should Huawei fuck me over, then I'll go to TDS or, someone else that's local.
I'm hoping they won't do that, but they've been pretty good, and I've seen their truck in our neighborhood a few times. So.
Yeah, they've done fairly well for us so far. Knock on wood, they've done all right. So guys, I think we're to the end of our episode here. If you want to head over to scaryifliteral.com, that's where you're going to find links to all of our other stuff, be it Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. You can follow us on Twitter, like I say, every week, and you can find ways to support us directly through the website as well. So like I said earlier, I hope all you guys had a great Thanksgiving, should you celebrate it as we head towards the Christmas holidays, whichever holiday you celebrate, of which there are many. Probably many that I don't even know what they are. But as we're in this holiday season, I hope everybody's staying safe and staying happy. So thank you for joining me today, Jessi. My name is Shane. This was Podcast Revived, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.